This week, I want to talk about the importance of scrutinizing user intent when creating landing pages. Now, about 18 months ago, Ram Fishkin created what was one of my favorite ever Whiteboard Fridays, and he talked about the importance of overlapping content of a landing page with the user intent when the person arrives on that landing page. So what are they hoping to find? Are they hoping to find pricing information, maybe technical specification data, maybe testimonials or address information, or whatever it is? But the more of these boxes that the landing page can tick, the more likely it is that it's going to perform well in the search engines, because Google understands it's a better result. And we've certainly seen an enormous amount of evidence supporting that theory over the last 18 months, with pages with relatively little authority performing brilliantly in the search engines because they did a great job of this. And this is now something that we're generally referring to as broad relevance. However, I want to take it a step further, because while I think it's hugely important for rankings, I also think it's really, really important for user experience and conversions. And I think this stands to reason. Ultimately, the reason why Google are increasing the rankings of a page that does a great job with this is because you're providing a better user experience. You're offering people the information they really want to find and presenting it in a very digestible way. So you could expect to see better engagement, better visitor return rates, etc. But also, ultimately, it's going to have a big, big impact on conversions. And I want to break this down into two areas. So primarily about the online conversion process. Obviously, again, if you're ticking more of these boxes, if the person is hoping to find pricing information and lots of case studies and testimonials, and you're giving them all that information, well, what else could they want? Of course, the conversion rate is going to be higher. But the other thing is this: for many businesses, that initial inquiry is just the start of a longer decision-making process. And if you get this right, and if you really understand the user intent, not only do you increase this, but you make sure that that lead comes through to you when it's hot rather than when it's confused. And we all know just how time-consuming and costly getting the wrong kind of leads can be for businesses. So I'm going to illustrate this with an example of a business that we just started working with over the last couple of months. So they offer a subscription, it's a subscription model. They offer information to people on a freemium basis, i.e. people sign up, initially it's free and they get an amount of information, but if they want a bit more, they've got to pay for it. So the goal was very, very simple. All they wanted us to do was to increase the number of initial sign-ups. The logic being, if they could increase the number of initial sign-ups at the top of the funnel, then the number of paying sign-ups coming out the bottom of the funnel would be higher. Fine. However, in the first month, we started to learn some really important things that quickly began to change our perspective. So we learned that many of the customers, or many of these people signing up, were actually very new to the service and didn't really understand it. They knew they wanted it, but they didn't fully understand how it applied to their business. Consequently, they took a long time to upgrade to become full paying subscribers. Once they were paying subscribers, they often then went on to pay for additional offline training, and retention rates were extremely high. So what did this tell us? Well, it told us this. It told us that they were indecisive, they needed help, they were willing to pay for that help, and their long-term value was high, so they were worth the effort. And consequently, our mentality shifted enormously. This was no longer about aggressively pushing them through a funnel and just doing anything we could to capture their email data, because that actually wasn't what this was about. The goal here was not about that. It was about how many were ultimately becoming paying subscribers. So it became much more about trying to increase the broad relevance of the landing pages, which obviously then can help with the search engine rankings, and just generally increasing the on-site resources, so that when people when that data came through, they were actually well informed and they were ready to make the purchase. In fact, we're now even in the process of setting up an autoresponder sequence to try and accelerate this phase here, where they're going from being a free subscriber to a paying subscriber. So it's all about shifting the goal from here, the initial free signups, to ultimately the bottom line. How many of those are becoming paid subscribers? This was a misleading vanity metric. So how do we go through that process? It's always the same. First of all, we've got to understand the people. So who are these people that are arriving on this web page? Are there loads of them and they're all looking for more or less the same thing, or is it actually a very tailored service they're looking for? How do they look demographically? What sort of age, gender, location, etc.? What's their profession and seniority? And what's their personality type? Because if they're highly analytical, they're going to want information. Then what's the decision-making process? Are they already ready to purchase? Is it an impulse buy? Or do they need education like this? Because again, the two different decision-making processes require a very different approach from a marketing point of view. And is there anyone else involved in the decision-making process from their side that we need to be conscious of? Because they matter too. When we've got all that information, we can then finally say, right, now at last we truly understand who they are, what their intent is, and how we're going to best optimize for rankings, for user experience, and conversions. It's not a quick process, but I promise you that it is worth the effort, because best practice, and we all love talking about best practice when it comes to CRO and SEO, but it'll only take you so far. The world is far too complex to be relying on best practice. You need to get to grips with the individuals that you're dealing with. And I promise you, with every month that follows, everything will be that much easier and that much more successful. It is worth the effort. Good luck.